Hi guys, I'm back. Today I'm going to read 1 Kings 16 to 20, Proverbs 14, and Psalm 78. Let's get started. And the word of the Lord came to Jehu, the son of Hanani, against Baasha, saying, Since I exalted you out of the dust and made you leader over my people Israel, and you have walked in the way of Jeroboam, and have made my people Israel to sin, provoking me to anger with their sins, behold, I will utterly sweep away Baasha and his house, and I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat. Anyone belonging to Baasha who dies in the city, the dogs shall eat, and anyone of his who dies in the field, the birds of the heaven shall eat. Now the rest of the acts of Baasha and what he did, and his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Baasha slept with his fathers and was buried at Tirzah. And Elah his son reigned in his place. Moreover, the word of the Lord came by the prophet Jehu the son of Hanani against Baasha and his house, both because of all the evil he did in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger with the work of his hand, and being like the house of Jeroboam, and also because he destroyed it. In the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah, Elah the son of Baasha began to reign over Israel in Tirzah, and he reigned 2 years. But his servant Zimri, commander of half his chariots, conspired against him. When he was in Tirzah, drinking himself drunk in the house of Asa, who was over the household in Tirzah, Zimri came in and struck him down and killed him. In the 27th year of King Asa, king of Judah, and reigned in his place. When he began to reign, as soon as he had seen himself on his throne, he struck down all the house of Baasha. He did not leave him a single male of his relatives or his friends. Thus Zimri destroyed all the house of Baasha, according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke against Baasha by Jehu the prophet, for all the sins of Baasha and the kings, and the sins of Elders his son, which they sinned and which they made Israel to sin, provoking the Lord God of Israel to anger with their idols. Now the rest of the acts of Elah and all that he did, are they not written in the books of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? In this 27th year of Asa king of Judah, Zimri reigned 7 days in Tirzah. Now the troops were encamped against Gibeon, which belonged to the Philistines. And the troops who were encamped heard it said, Zimri has conspired, and he has killed the king. Therefore all Israel made Omri the commander of the army king over Israel that day in the camp. So Omri went up from Gibeon, and all Israel with him. And they besieged Tirzah. And when Zimri saw that the city was taken, he went into the citadel of the king's house, and burned the king's house open with fire and died, because of his sins that were in committed, doing evil in the sight of the Lord, walking in the way of Jeroboam, and for his sin which he committed, making Israel to sin. Now the rest of the acts of Zimri, and the conspiracy that he made, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And then the people of Israel were divided into 2 parts. Half of the people followed Tibni, the son of Gina, to make him king, and the other and half followed Omri. But the people who followed Omri overcame the people who followed Tibni, son of Ginath. So Tibni died, and Omri became king. In the 31st year of Asa king of Judah, Omri began to reign over Israel, and he reigned for 12 years. 6 years he reigned in Tirzah. He bought the hill of Samaria from Shema for 2 talents of silver, and he fortified the hill and called the name of the city that he built Samaria, after the name of Shema, the owner of the hill. Omri did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and did more evil than all who were before him, for he walked in all the way of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and in the sins that he made Israel to sin, provoking the Lord, the God of Israel, to anger by their idols. Now the rest of the acts of Omri that he did, and the might that he showed, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Omri slept with his fathers and was buried in Samaria, and Ahab his son reigned in his place. In the 38th year of Asa king of Judah, Ahab the son of Omri began to reign over Israel. And Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years. And Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of him, more than all who were before him, And as if it had been the right thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, he took for his wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. He erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria, and Ahab made it natural. Ahab did more to provoke the God of Israel, to anger than all the kings of Israel who were before him. In his days, he of Bethel built up Jericho. He laid its foundation at the cost of Abiram, his firstborn, and set up its gates by at the cost of his youngest son, Selah, according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke by Joshua the son of Nun. Now Elijah the Tishbite of Tishba in Gilead said to Ahab, As the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, before whom I stand, there shall be none that do not reign except by my will. And the word of the Lord came to him, Depart from here and turn eastward, and hide yourself by the brook Cherith, which is east of the Jordan. You shall drink from the brook, I have commanded the ravens to feed you there. So he went and did according to the word of the Lord. He went and lived by the brook Cherith, that is east of the Jordan. And the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening. And he drank from the brook. After a while, the brook dried up, because there was no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him, Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to C.Jun, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to feed you. So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, a widow was there, gathering sticks. Then he called to her and said, Bring me a little water in a vessel, that I may drink. And she was going to bring it. She called to her and said, Bring me a morsel of bread in your hand. And she said, As the Lord your God lives, I have nothing baked, only a handful of flour in a jar, and a little oil in a jar. And now I am gathering a couple of sticks, that I may go in and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. And Elijah said to her, Do not fear. Go and do as you have said. But first make me a little cake of it, and bring it to me. And afterward make something for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, The jar of flour shall not be spent, and the jug of oil shall not be empty, until the day that the Lord sends rain upon the earth. And she went and did as Elijah said, and she and her household ate for many days. The jar of flour was not spent, neither did the jug of oil become empty, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke by Elijah. After the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, became ill, and his illness was so severe that there was no breath left in him. And she said to Elijah, What have you against me, O man of God? You have come up to me to bring my sin to remembrance, and cause the death of my son. And he said, Give me your son. And he took him from her arms and carried him up into the upper chamber where he lodged, and laid him on his own bed. And he cried to the Lord, O Lord my God, have you brought calamity even upon the widow with whom I sojourned by killing her son? Then he stretched himself upon the child 3 times and cried to the Lord, O Lord my God, let this child's life come into him again. And the Lord listened to the voice of Elijah, and the life of the child came into him, and he revived. And Elijah took the child and brought him down from the upper chamber into the house, and delivered him to his mother. And Elijah said, See, your son lives. And the woman said to Elijah, Now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord is in your mouth is true. After many days the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go, show yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. So Elijah went to show himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria, and Ahab called Obadiah, who was over the household. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly, and when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord, Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50s in a cave and fed them with bread and water. And Ahab said to Obadiah, Go through the land to all the springs of water and to all the valleys. Perhaps we may find grass and save the horses and mules alive, and not lose some families. So they divided the land between them to pass through. Ahab went in one direction by himself, and Obadiah went in one direction by himself. And as Obadiah was on the way, behold, Elijah met him. And Obadiah recognized him, and fell on his face, and said, Is it you, my lord Elijah? And he answered him, It is I. Go, and tell your lord, Behold, Elijah is here. And he said, How have I sinned, that you would give your servant into the hand of Ahab to kill me? As the Lord lives, and your God lives, there is no nation or kingdom where my Lord has not sent to seek you. And when they would say, He is not here, he would take an oath of the kingdom of all nations, that they had not found it. And Mary said, Go, tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here. And as soon as I have gone home, the Spirit of the Lord will carry you, I know not where. And so, when I come and tell Ahab, and he will not find me, he will kill me. Although I, your servant, have feared the Lord from my youth. Has it not been told my Lord what I did when Jezebel killed the prophets of the Lord, how I hid 100 men of the Lord's prophets by 50s in the cave and fed them with bread and water? And now he said, Go, tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here, and he will come. And Elijah said, As the Lord of hosts lives, before whom I said, Stay, I will surely show myself to him today. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab, and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. When Ahab saw Elijah, Ahab said to him, Is it you traveler of Israel? And he answered, I have not traveled Israel, but you have, in your father's house, because you have abandoned the commandments of the Lord and followed the Baals. Now therefore send and gather all Israel to me at Mount Carmel, and the 450 prophets of Baal, and the 400 prophets of Asherah, who eat at Jezebel's table. So Asherah said to all the people of Israel and gathered the prophets together at Mount Carmel. And Elijah came to near to all the people and said, How long will you go limping between two different opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people did not answer him. Then Elijah said to the people, I only am and left a prophet of the Lord. But Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let 2 bulls be given to us. Let them choose one bull for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, but put no fire to it. And I'll prepare the other bull, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire to it. And you will call upon the name of the Lord, and I'll call upon the name of the Lord. And the God who answers by fire, he is God. And all the people answered, It is well spoken. Then Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, Choose for yourselves one bull, and prepare it first, for you are many, and call upon the name of your God. With good fire and no fire to it. And they took the bull that was given them, and they prepared it and called upon the name of Baal from morning until noon, saying, O Baal, answer us. But there was no voice, and no one answered. And they limped around the altar that they had made. And at noon Elijah mocked him, saying, Cry aloud, for he is a god. Are you going to use music, for he is relieving himself, or he is on a journey, or perhaps he is asleep and must be awakened. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their custom with swords and lances, until the blood gushed out upon them. And as midday passed, they raved on until the time of the offering of the oblation. But there was no voice. No one answered. No one paid attention. And Elijah said to all the people, Come near to me. And all the people came near to him. And he repaired the altar of the Lord that had been thrown down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be your name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. And he made a trench about the altar. Its greatest wood contained 2 seahs of seed. And he put the wood in order, and cut the board in pieces, and laid it on the wood. And he said, Fill 4 jars with wood, and pour it on the burnt offering and on the wood. Then he said, Do it a second time. And they did it a second. And he said, Do it a third time. And they did it a third time. And the water ran around the altar and filled the trench also with water. And at the time of the offering of the oblation, Elijah the prophet came and said, God of Isaac, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things in your name. Answer me here, O Lord, and see that these people may know our God, and that you turn their hearts back. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt offering and the wood, and all the stones of the dust, and licked up the wood that was in the trench. And when all the people saw, they fell on their faces and said, The Lord, he is God, the Lord, he is God. And Elijah said to them, Seize the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they seized them. And Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon, and slaughtered them there. And then Elijah said to Ahab, Go up, eat and drink, for there is a sound of the rushing of rain. So Ahab went up to eat and drink. And Elijah went up to the top of Mount Carmel, and he bowed himself down on the earth and put his face between his knees. He said to his son, "Go up now, look toward the sea." And he looked up and looked and said, "There's nothing." And he said, "Go again 7 times." And at the seventh time he said, "Behold, a little cloud like a man's hand is rising from the sea." And he said, "Go up, say to Ahab, prepare your chariot and go down, lest the rain stop you." And in a little while, the heavens grew black with clouds and wind, and there was great rain. And Ahab raised him up and went to Jezreel. And the hand of the Lord was on Elijah, and he gathered up his garment and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, So make the gods do to me more. If I do not make your life as the life of one of them by this time tomorrow. Then he was afraid, and then he arose and ran for his life and came to Israel, which belongs to Judah, and left his servant there. He himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree. And he asked that he might die, saying, "It is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers." And he lay down and slept under a broom tree. And behold, an angel touched him and said to him, "Arise and eat." And he looked, and behold, there at his head a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. And he ate and drank and lay down again. And the angel of the Lord came down a second time and touched him and said, "Arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you." And he arose and ate and drank, and went on the strength of the Lord, 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God. There he came to a cave and lodged in. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. And he said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He said, "I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altar, and killed your prophets with the sword. And now even I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away." And he said, "Go out and stand on the mount before the Lord." And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake in the wind. And after the wind an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire the sound of a low whisper. And when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in a cloak, and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He said, "I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, killed your prophets with the sword, and I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away." And the Lord said to him, "Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. And Jehu, the son of Nimshi, you shall anoint to be king over Israel. And Elisha, the son of Shaphat, of Abel Maholah, you shall anoint to be prophet in your place. And the one who escapes from the sword of Hazael shall put Jehu to death. And the one who escapes from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha put to death. Yet I will leave 7,000 in Israel, all the knees that have not bowed down to bow, and every mouth that has not kissed him." So he departed from there and found Elisha the son of Shaphat, who was ploughing with 12 yoke of oxen in front of him, and he was with 12. Elijah passed by him and cast his cloak upon him, and he left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, "Let me kiss my father and mother, and then I'll follow you." And then he said to him, "Go back again, for what have I done to you?" And he returned from following him, and took the yoke of the oxen, and sacrificed them, and boiled their flesh with the yokes of the oxen, and gave it to the people. And they ate. Then he arose and went after Elijah, and assisted him. Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, gathered all his army together. 32 kings were with him, in horses and chariots. And he went up and closed in on Samaria, and fought against him. But he sent messengers into the city to Ahab, king of Israel, and said to him, "Thus says Ben-Hadad, your silver and your gold are mine, your best wine and trim are also mine. And so, king of Israel, as you say, my lord, O king, I am yours, and all that I have." Your messengers came again and said, "Thus says Ben-Hadad, I sent to you, saying, Deliver to me your silver and your gold, your wives and your children. Nevertheless, I will send my servants to you tomorrow about this time. And they shall search your house and the houses of your servants, and lay hands on whatever pleases you, and take it away. Then the king of Israel called all the elders of Israel and said, Mark now, and see how this man is seeking John, for he sent to me for my wives and my children, and for my silver and my gold, and I did not refuse it. And all the elders and all the people said to him, Do not listen or consent. And so he said to the messengers of Ben-Hadad, Tell my lord the king, all that you first demanded or your servant I will do, but this thing I cannot do. And the messengers departed and brought him word again. Ben-Hadad sent to him and said, The gods do so to me and more also, if the dust of Samaria shall suffice for handfuls of all the people who follow me. And the king of Israel answered, Tell him, Let not him who straps on his armor boast himself as he takes it off. When Ben-Hadad heard this message as he was drinking with the kings in the booth, he said to the men, Take your positions. And they took their positions against the city. And behold, a prophet came near to Ahab, king of Israel, and said, Thus says the Lord, Have you seen all this great multitude? Behold, I will give it into your hand this day, and you shall know that I am the Lord. And Ahab said, By whom? He said, Thus says the Lord, the servants of the governors of the districts. And he said, Who shall begin the battle? He answered, You. Then he mustered the servants of the governors of the districts, and there were 232. And after them he mustered all the people of Israel, 7,000. And they went out at noon, while Ben-Hadad was drinking himself drunk in the booth, and he and the 32 kings who helped him. The servants of the governors of the districts went out first, and Ben-Hadad sent out scouts, and they reported to him, Men are coming out from Samaria. He said, If they come out for peace, take them alive. Or if they come out for war, take them alive. So they went out of the city. The servants of the governors of the district, and the army that followed them, and each struck down his men. And the Syrians fled, and Israel pursued them. And Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, escaped on a horse with horsemen. And the king of Israel went out and struck the horses and chariots, and struck the Syrians with a great blow. Then the prophet came near to the king and said to him, Come, strengthen yourself, and consider well what you have to do for. In the spring the king of Syria will come up against you. And the servants of the king of Syria said to him, Their gods are the gods of the hills, and so they were stronger than we. And let us fight against them in the plain, and surely we shall be stronger than they. And do this, remove the kings, each for his post, and put commanders in their places, and muster an army like the army that you have lost, horse for horse, and chariot for chariot. And then we will fight against them in the plain, and surely we shall be stronger than they. And he listened to their voice and did so. In the spring, Ben-Hadad mustered the Syrians and went up to Aphek to fight against Israel. And the people of Israel were mustered and were provisioned and went against them. The people of Israel encamped before them like two little flocks of goats. The Syrians filled the country. And a man of God came near and said to the king of Israel, Thus says the Lord, because the Syrians have said, The Lord is a God of the hills, but he is not a God of the valleys. Therefore I will give you all this great multitude into your land. And shall know that I am the Lord. And they encamped opposite one another 7 days. Then on the 7th day the battle was joined, and the people of Israel struck down of the Syrians 100,000 foot soldiers in 1 day, and the rest fled into the city of Aphek, and the wall fell upon 27,000 men who were left. Ben-Hadad also fled and entered an inner chamber in the city, and his servants said to them, Behold now, we have heard that the king of the house of Israel, a merciful king, let us put sackcloth around our necks, waists, and ropes on our heads, and go to the king of Israel. Perhaps he will spare your life. So they tied sackcloth around their waists and put ropes on their heads. and then went to the king of Israel. And said, "The servant Ben-Hadad says, 'Please let me live.' And he said, 'Does he still live?' 'He is my brother.' Now the men were watching for a sign, and they quickly took it up from him and said, 'Yes, your brother Ben-Hadad.' Then he said, 'Go and bring him.' Then Ben-Hadad came out to him, and he caused him to come out into the town. And Ben-Hadad said to him, 'The cities that my father took from your father I will restore, and you may establish bazaars for yourself in Damascus, as my father did in Samaria.' And Ahab said, 'I'll let you go on these terms.' So he made a covenant with him and let him go. And a certain man of the sons of the prophet said to his fellow and the commander of the Lord, 'Strike me, please.' But the man refused to strike him. And then he said to him, 'Because you have not obeyed the voice of the Lord, behold, as soon as you have gone from me, the lion shall strike you down.' And as soon as he departed from him, a lion met him and struck him down. Then he found another man and said, 'Strike me, please.' And the man struck him and wounded him. So the prophet departed and waited for the king by the way, disguising himself with a bandage over his eyes. And as the king passed, he cried to the king and said, 'Your servant went out into the midst of the battle, and behold, a soldier turned and brought a man to me and said, Guard this man, and if by any means he is missing, your life shall be for his life, or else you shall pay a talent of silver.' And as your servant was busy here and there, he was gone. The king of Israel said to him, 'So shall your judgment be. You yourself have decided it.' Then he hurried to take the bandage away from his eyes. And the king of Israel recognized him as one of the prophets. And he said to him, 'Thus says the Lord, because you have let go out of your hand the man whom I had devoted to destruction, therefore your life shall be for his life, and your people for his people.' And the king of Israel went to his house, vexed and sullen, and came to Samaria." Proverbs 15. Proverbs 14. The wisest of women builds a house, but the folly with her own hands tears it down. Whoever walks in uprightness fears the Lord, but he who is devious in his ways despises him. By the mouth of a fool comes a rod for his back. The lips of the wise will preserve them. Where there are no oxen, the manure is clean, but abundant crops comes by the strength of the ox. A faithful witness does not lie, but a false witness breathes out lies. A scoffer seeks wisdom in vain, but knowledge is easy for a man of understanding. Leave the presence of a fool, for there you do not meet words of knowledge. The wisdom of the prudent is to discern his way. The folly of fools is deceiving. Fools mock at the guilt offering, but the upright enjoy acceptance. The heart knows its own bitterness, and no stranger shows its joy. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, the tent of the upright will flourish. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death. Even in laughter the heart may ache, and the end of joy may be grief. The backslider in a heart will be filled with the fruit of his ways, and the good man will be filled with the fruit of his ways. The simple believe everything, but the prudent gives thought to his step. One who is wise is cautious and turns away from evil, but a fool is reckless and careless. A man of quick temper acts foolishly, but a man of evil devices is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow down before the good, the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor is disliked even by his neighbor, but the rich has many friends. Whoever despises his neighbor is a sin, but blessed is he who is generous to the poor. Do they not go astray who devise evil? Those who devise good meet steadfast love and faithfulness. In all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. The crown of the wise is their wealth, but the folly of fools brings folly. A truthful witness saves lies, but one who breathes out lies is deceitful. In the fear of the Lord one has strong confidence, and his children will have refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, that one may turn away from the snares of death. In a multitude of people is the glory of a king, but without a people a prince is ruined. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. A tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bones swell. Whoever oppresses a poor man insults his maker, but he who is generous to the needy honors him. The wicked is overthrown through his evil doing, but the righteous finds refuge in his death. Wisdom rests in the hearts of a man of an understanding, but it makes itself known even in the midst of force. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. A servant who deals wisely has the king's fear, but his wrath falls on one who acts shamefully. Psalm 78. Give ear, O my people, to my teaching. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in the powerful. I will utter dark sayings from of old, things that we have heard and known, that our fathers have told us, but we will not hide them from their children, but tell to the coming generation the glorious deeds of the Lord, and the Lord's might, and the wonders that he has done. He established a testimony in Jacob, and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers to teach to their children, that the next generation might know the children yet unborn, and arise and tell them to their children, so that they should set their hope in God, and not forget the works of God, and keep his commandments, and that they should not be like their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation whose heart was not steadfast, whose spirit was not faithful to the Lord. The Ephraimites, armed with the bow, turned back on the day of battle. They did not keep God's covenant, but refused to walk according to his law. They forgot his works and the wonders that he had shown them. In the sight of their fathers he performed wonders in the land of Eden, in the fields of Zon. And he divided a sea and let them pass through, and made the waters stand like a heap. In the daytime he led them with a cloud, and all the night with fiery light. He split rocks in the wilderness, and gave them drink abundantly as from the deep. He made streams come out of the rock, and caused waters to flow down like rivers. Yet they sinned still more against him, rebelling against their most high in the desert. They tested God in their heart, by demanding the food they craved. They spoke against the God. Can God spread a table in the wilderness? He struck the rock so that water gushed out, and streams overflowed. Can he also give bread or provide meat for his people? Therefore, when the Lord heard, he was full of wrath. A fire was kindled against you. His anger rose against you, because they did not believe in God, and did not trust his saving power. Yet he commanded the skies above, and opened the door of heaven. And he rained down the manna to eat, and gave them the grain of heaven. Man ate of the bread of the angels. He sent the food in abundance. He caused the east wind to blow in the heavens, and by his power he led out the south wind. He rained on them like dust, winged birds that were the seas. He let them fall in the midst of their camp, all around their dwellings. They ate and were well filled, for he gave them what they craved. And before they had satisfied their craving, while the crew was still in the angel of God rose against them, and he killed the strongest of them, and laid low the young man of Israel. In spite of all this, they still sinned, despite his wonders, so they did not believe. So he made their days vanish like a breath, and their years in terror. When he killed them, they saw him. They repented and sought God earnestly. They remembered that God was their Lord, the Most High God their Redeemer. But they flattered him with their mouths. They lied to him with their tongues. Their heart was not steadfast toward him. They were not faithful to his covenant. Yet he, being compassionate, atoned for their iniquity, and did not destroy them. He restrained his anger often, and did not stir up all his wrath. He remembered that they were but flesh. The wind that passes and comes not again. Now often they rebelled against him in the wilderness, and grieved him in the desert. They tested God again and again, and provoked the Holy One of Israel. They did not remember his power, or the day when he redeemed them from the foe, or the day when he performed his signs in Egypt, and his marvels in the fields of Zidon. He turned their rivers to blood, so that they could not drink of their streams. He sent among them swarms of flies, which devoured them, and frogs, which destroyed them. He gave their crops to the destroying locusts, and the fruit of their labor to the locusts. He destroyed their vines with hail, and their sea companions with frost. He gave over the cattle to the hail, and their flocks to thunderbolts. He let loose on them his burning anger, wrath, indignation, and distress, the company of destroying angels. He made a path for his anger. He did not spare them from death, but gave their lives over to the plague. He struck down every firstborn in Egypt, the first fruits of their strength in the tents of him. Then he led out his people like sheep, and guided them in the wilderness like a flock. He left them in safety, so that they were not afraid, so that the sea overwhelmed their enemies. And he brought them to his holy land, to the mountain which his right hand had won. He drove out nations before him. He apportioned them for a possession, and settled the tribes of Israel in their tents. Yet they tested and rebelled against the Most High God, and did not keep his testimonies, but turned away and acted treacherously like their fathers. They twisted like a deceitful bow, for they provoked him to anger with their high places. They moved them to jealousy with their idols. When God heard, he was full of wrath, and he utterly rejected Israel. He forsook his dwelling at Sheol, the tent where he dwelt among men, and delivered his palace to captivity, his glory to the hand of the foe. He gave his people over to the sword, and vented his wrath on his heritage. Fire devoured their young men, and their young women had no married son. Their priests fell by the sword, and their widows made no lamentation. Then the Lord awoke us from sleep, and then like a strong man shouting because of blood, and he put his adversaries to wrath. He put them to everlasting shame. He rejected the tent of Joseph. He did not choose the tribe of Ephraim, but he chose the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, which he loves. He built a sanctuary like the high heaven, like the earth, which he has founded forever. He chose David's servant and took him from the sheepfold. From following the nursing elves he brought him to shepherd Jacob his people, Israel his inheritance. With upright heart he shepherded them, and guided them with a skillful hand. Now thus done, I shall now do the Lord's will. Please bow your heads. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. See you tomorrow. Bye.